Must be working.
Looks like it. My screen, it looks like it's still thinking about it, but it does say it is streaming. So
Says it's streaming. What about it, Ledford? We streaming?
It looks like it. Let's see if I got my little notification.
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, I thought you was,
I do. It comes up. Let me see. It hasn't popped up on my iPad yet.
My screen says live on YouTube.
well, I was wondering if anybody had it actually up looking at it. And it is 2:00 if somebody wants to take us live.
We're live.
All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, August the 18th strategic planning meeting. I'll now call this meeting to order. On our agenda this afternoon, we have Juneteenth as a paid holiday, and we're going to bring in the HR committee to talk about that. So at this time, I will turn the floor over to Councilman Gilbert. Councilman Gilbert, you are now in the chair.
Thank you, sir. Can we bring up Ms. Beverly and Ms. Shea, please?
Yes, sir. Beverly is on her way, and I will work on Shay. And Shay is on her way as well.
Okay. Ms. Beverly,
Yes, good afternoon, Council.
how you doing,
Good
ma'am?
afternoon.
Doing wonderful.
We would like to get started on the Juneteenth proposal. Can you go ahead and get started, or I think Ms. Shea or yourself?
Yes, so thank you. Council, just for your reference, Shay Jefferson, my Chief Deputy Officer, she will be presenting, sharing her screen, but both of us will enter into the discussion with you guys in regards to the Juneteenth holiday. And before I do turn it over to Shay, I just want to preference that the slides that we put together is more so for visual to aid in the discussion. We are here really to help supplement information for you all as you make the decision about whether or not to go forth with the holiday proposal. So I'll turn it over to Shay, but just know we'll be glad to answer or engage in any discussions that you see fit. So Shay, if you go on and get started and share your screen, please.
Thank you. Is everyone able to view my screen?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, Council, and thank you for this opportunity today to speak with you all as it relates to the city of Chattanooga and the Juneteenth holiday. This council adopted resolution 30280 on March 31st of this year, designating June 19th of each year as Juneteenth Independence Day. As you all know, the city currently offers 11 paid holidays, which include New Year's Day, ML King Day, Good Friday, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, the Friday after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and of course, Christmas Day. Section 3 of our Employee Information Guide indicates that employees who need time off to observe religious practices or holidays not already scheduled by the city can discuss alternate options with their supervisor. Since the employee will be trading a day for another, there is no additional cost to the city. If the city were to add Juneteenth, the list of recognized paid holidays would increase to 12. And it would cost approximately $693,000 annually. This amount anticipates loss of productivity, holiday pay at time and a half for non-sworn employees who may be scheduled to work on the recognized holiday. So the first option would not be at any additional cost to the city, and we could strengthen our current policy to require a signed agreement with selecting an alternate day of observance. HR would work with legal and draft the appropriate form to do so. The second option of increasing pay holidays from 11 to 12, again, would cost the city approximately $693,000 annually. I would also like to note that Juneteenth falls on a Saturday and Sunday for the next 2 years, and our policy includes observing holidays on the preceding Friday and the following Monday in these cases. Juneteenth won't fall on a weekday again until fiscal year 23. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shay. Do we have any questions? I see Councilman Leffert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. More of a comment than a question, I believe, but in the spirit of a new administration and a new council, I was actually interested to hear that this holiday would be on a Saturday and a Sunday in the next couple of years. Would we consider maybe not making this decision, but letting a future council make this decision, considering we would be obligating them going forward and because it's Saturday and Sunday the next 2 years? Just a quick comment.
You through, Councilman?
I'll go ahead and ask the other one. Hang on. The other question would be, if you opted for option one and you traded it that day out and other people are gone, how do you work that holiday? I mean, would that be something that you would fill in a position? Because we're seeing a almost $700,000 price tag. I'm just trying to figure that out. How do we, is it random? Could you trade? I mean, that's a little odd to me on how we fill that in, and can people fill in for other positions? I mean, I like the option, obviously, of not $700,000. That money could be used to go to YFD or something, but I'm just trying to figure that out.
So you asked about one?
Yeah, if you're trading it out, if you're saying, hey, I want this holiday, but I'm going to work this holiday, but then 80, 70, 60, whatever percentage of everyone is off, and there are those vacancies for holiday. We already know that holidays cost, right? We're seeing that. So where do you plug in, and is that your choice where you could plug into? I'm just trying to figure out how that works, the logistics behind option one.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. I will respond to that if you may. So today, if we think about it in terms of how do we manage schedules and staffing for our various departments. So of course, there will be a different model perhaps in terms of scheduling and staffing needs depending on the current department. However, there usually are very few employees. Sometimes employees are needing to modify their schedule. So as an example, similar to Christmas, if we have someone that does not recognize Christmas from a religious standpoint and perhaps would like to choose a day for Hanukkah, similar, they put in their request ahead of time so that all of the staffing arrangements can be made ahead of time and that approval given. And we will manage it that way with a schedule change in the system. The departments handle that today if that request comes up. So this would be handled exactly the same way. But all of this is predicated on the point of ensuring that we're pre-planning. We should already know if there are individuals who desire to have an alternate observance, and we could do better about perhaps promoting that opportunity so that it can facilitate the pre-planning of such activities.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
You through, Councilman?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Chairman Henderson, please. You mute, sir.
There we go. I'm trying to get it off. There we go. Thank you, sir. Okay, Ms. Beverly, I'm trying to understand if you could put the screen back up there, the two options option one, and Councilman Ledford sort of touched on this, doesn't cost the city anything. And I guess what I'm trying to do is balance $700,000 with our commitment to an employee pay increase. And so I guess my question and what I'm exploring or wondering, if we could observe the holiday under option one, and then we could save or commit this nearly $700,000 to go to an employee pay increase, which I know was important to every council member on this council during budget time. So could you explain a little bit further for me the option one again?
So yes, sir. So with option one, under our current arrangement today, all of our employees has an opportunity to select an alternate day of observance if it is for religious needs or for a different holiday that the city does not already recognize or schedule. So with that, of course, that arrangement means that that's just a schedule change. So as an example, if the city were closed for Christmas holiday, as an example, during that time, if someone was had proactively scheduled for an alternate arrangement during the Christmas leave time, that particular person would, in this example, would have to use their personal PTO on that day. But for the day that was swapped for the day of observance for them, that's where they would be paid the holiday. Their holiday pay would show up on whatever that day of observance was for them. So again, it's more so just a scheduling logistics piece of that. That's in play today under our current structure, and that's why there is no additional cost, because we're not adding a holiday. We're just allowing employees to have some selection in terms of if they have particular family or religious needs based on the holidays.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand you. Are you saying we would not add Juneteenth as a holiday then?
In option one, option one is not adding Juneteenth as a holiday. Option one is just explaining that if in fact someone wanted to observe Juneteenth under our current structure, we do have a mechanism to allow that to happen.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Byrd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Beverly, I love the system that we have now that gives people freedom to pick and choose the holidays that are important to them, that we're not telling them what holidays they have to take. It makes us flexible and nimble. So I really appreciate option one and what we're doing. The other thing is a more pragmatic reason that I think Chairman Henderson spoke of, and that is our budget can hardly take a $700,000 hit when it's a holiday that may not be the choice of everyone. And I think that there are other issues, one, of course, being the raises people have talked about and other issues. The third question and a comment, and it's really a question, is if we were to somehow choose that particular route of adding $700,000 to our budget, has anybody thought about where that money might come from? I don't hear any answers. I just was curious.
Are you asking Beverly or are you asking?
I'm asking whoever might know. I'm chair of the budget committee and I can tell you it's not there. I'm just trying to figure out what would we have to cut out. Well, okay, we'll just let that hang and move on, Mr. Chair, because I know we have other things. But I think I love the idea that we are nimble and give our employees the option to take the holidays that are important to them and are flexible enough to allow that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Byrd.
Hey, thank you, Chair. Beverly, maybe I missed it. What's the number, the total cost to the city with the holidays that are already in place?
I don't, Councilman, I will have to defer to finance. I don't have that number, the total dollar amount in front of me. But if Daisy is on the call, perhaps she can add some insight.
Maybe, but let me see if you can help me out with this. Because I keep hearing that 700,000 number thrown around. Is that a collective number of all of it? And say maybe a couple of thousand is added on to what's already there? Or is that a extra 700,000 added on top of what we're already spending?
The numbers that we shared in the presentation, of course, those were pulled together from our finance team. And my understanding is that is a cost of one added holiday. So that's 793,000 at minimum that would be added to our payroll cost, is my understanding.
Can you let me know? I just want to get a little more concrete answer if you can, because that's what I was understanding too. I just want to know if that's it or if that collectively that. So
I think that Ms. Daisy needs to come up and try to maybe explain to Councilman Byrd if she's available.
Thank you.
She's on her way.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Miss Daisy, your mic is muted.
Hello, Council. With respect to the holidays, that's approximately the cost of one holiday. So therefore, if you take that entire amount, and I didn't go get those numbers with actual employees, but it's approximately 11 times that amount. And then we would just add to that, let's say 11 times 7, let's say for the sake of discussion.
Right.
7,700,000.
It would, right. It would, then you would add another 600 plus thousand to that.
Okay.
To the city. And what happens is, whenever you budget for a person's time off, that person is off. And that's the cost that you have to pay that individual while they're off.
While they're off. So if they were, and Miss Daisy, if they were at work, that money still will be coming out. So when you ask where does the money come from, the money pretty much is already allocated for our days to work, correct?
Well, therefore, if you go back to the slide that she had with the numbers on it, I was hoping she'd go back. The numbers, the biggest
Shay, can you put that back up for Ms. Daisy?
portion of that had.
And Chair?
Yes, sir.
Nothing, I'll wait.
Okay.
Okay. The first line you'll see, it says total value, cost, meaning value of 1 day of lost productivity. If an employee is not working, then they're not working. So you have two choices. You either the work doesn't happen, or you hire somebody else to do that work that they would have done. So on the assumption that the employees are doing a job, especially with respect to fire and police, that has to have people there, and they can't rearrange the work, the time. They can't. I have to patrol today. I can't patrol tomorrow for today. They have to be in place today. So when that day is off, then theoretically someone else needs to go and be on duty for that extra day. So you'll see where sworn not subject would require an additional 2 additional employees in order to make up for all of their staff having an additional day off. And these civilians is the 318 is the cost of 1 day of civilian. Civilians are slightly more flexible in that regard because some employee, but it depends on where you work. The professional employees, I won't say they all are professional, but certain employees, if I'm off today, I make up that tomorrow, or it doesn't get done. So you have to assume that employees have a full workload. If they didn't, then we're paying them to not do whatever it is they're doing. So if we're going to give them that day off, then that means that you need additional staff to cover the work that they would have done. And in, the place that is most obvious is generally Public Works. When that day is off, it's pretty obvious to us that those employees that are there are being paid overtime. But most offices, it's not that obvious. So the numbers are based on the notion that our staff, which is very minimal as it is, in order for them to continue the workload that is there and respond to the citizens' requirements, and I will say again, especially with respect to the sworn, you have to replace that time off with an employee to cover it. And for and that's really the basis of the numbers.
Gotcha.
And if it doesn't get done, then it's lost productivity.
Gotcha. So on the holidays outside of Juneteenth, it's safe to say, I think Councilwoman Burris brought up where the money is going to come from. If we canceled all holidays, it's still safe to say that we wouldn't have an extra $7 million, $7.6 million to spread out for raises. We wouldn't have that extra money because that money is already scheduled to pay employees because now they would be at work. So we wouldn't have an extra $7 million to pay people, correct?
No, if you
did
it to all employees, cancel all time for all employees, then theoretically you could reduce your staff if everybody never takes off.
Yeah.
If they never took off, then you could theoretically reduce your staff, which would then save the $7 million. But that's a theoretical. They're still, if you didn't give them the holidays, they're going to take off anyway.
Yeah.
And it would be, yeah, well, you'd have, I'm sure personnel could address that. You'd have a whole lot of other issues because it's unlikely that they continue to work at a place where they don't get time off. And if they do take off, then someone else is still going to have to, you're still in the same place where someone would have to fill in for that time or they doesn't get done.
It makes sense. The writing's on the wall. I understand. Thank you, Daisy.
Thank you, Councilman Byrd.
Not trying to make a decision.
Say it again, Daisy.
Oh, I was just reiterating that I'm not trying to make your decision, just trying to make sure you have the facts, the information clear.
Well, thank you, Ms. Daisy.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have any other questions about Juneteenth? So far, I don't see any hands. That's an old hand, Councilman Byrd.
Yes, sir. It's an old hand.
Okay, sir. Well, I don't see any other hand, any other questions. Well, Ms. Beverly and Ms. Shea, I appreciate it. And Ms. Daisy, I appreciate you coming by to explain to us about the Juneteenth and give us an education and make a decision of what we want to do. Chair,
yeah.
I think we just get an educational part right now, and I guess in the future we'll elaborate more about this.
Okay, that'll be great. Thank you, sir. And Miss Lydia, before we let Miss Beverly go, let's let her hang on. We can excuse Miss Shea and Miss Daisy. Okay. Councilwoman Coonrod wanted to discuss non-owner occupied short-term vacation rentals. Mr. Attorney, do you have anything that y'all have worked on? I'd probably rather wait till she's here to present it, but are we making any progress on that? You're muted. You're muted. You're muted.
I was wondering why you didn't hear me. Okay. Yes, I have been working on at least a draft here for Councilwoman Coonrod. We've sent a version to her yesterday, which had at least discussed the changes that she was wanting to at least have the council consider. The requirements here, at least on her end, were to at least make sure that there was some zoning review involved in this type of activity, and that there be at least a designation for owner occupied and non-owner occupied that is different than what you have currently in your ordinance. And the language that we at least are reviewing here would be to at least require that short-term vacation rental, which is the primary residence of the owner, would be an owner-occupied unit, and that would allow an owner who has a residence that is occupied or on a lot with an adjacent owner occupied, but non-owner occupied units would be essentially not allowed other than those that were in existence as of the end of October of this year to start up new non-owner occupied.
Get that to her and she shares it with the rest of the group.
Yes, sir. Giving it to her, and whenever she's ready, we'll give it to you.
Okay. We now move to other business under pending presentations. I noticed we let Miss Beverly go. I thought we were hanging on to her. The GARE and equity, racial equity training. Councilman Mitchell, this has your name by it. Do you still want your name? I mean, you still helping quarterback this? If you are, I'm going to turn it over to you. If not,
well, Mr. Chair, I really haven't done any work on it the last couple of weeks. I did get a correspondence from Councilperson Coonrod, who started a movement for us to, of course, take some racial equity training, and it seems to evolve here. But I heard from her last week with a question of, will the council pay for this GARE training? And if so, why would we not consider the original person that she brought up because it was less expensive? And that's all I've heard.
okay. Miss Beverly, could you unmute your mic, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would like to come to some kind of resolution on this for the council, whether we're going to let the GARE do the training, or whether we get these other individuals. And I don't remember, it seemed like to me you were going to do some research into a few things. Forgive me, I don't remember exactly what those couple of items were, but what I guess my question is, what steps do we need to take as a council to either line up the GARE training or the other training by the other consultant?
Okay. Well, sir, so yes, the outstanding items that I was asked to provide was more so some oversight in terms of the various trainings and what I would call the outcome from each of those trainings. And I have provided those things to council in regards in a form of a document that outlines the various types, and there are some estimated costs there. So my recommendation at this point would be more so we would need a deeper understanding of exactly what type of the training council is looking for. I'll call it the duration. How much time do you have? Or are you wanting this to be just a single impact training, or are you wanting something that will commence over a course of a number of weeks? But depending on how you'd like that design, we do have the information available to set that up and get it moving. But it does come down to, yes, how would you like this training designed? What is your budgetary piece for the training? And I believe that the one other question that was outstanding was in regards to whether or not this training could be done in a more, what I'd call it, more intimate setting versus it being in public forum. And so I will be happy to work with each of you on helping to design that, regardless to which consulting group you use. I'll be happy to lend my services there, but I believe that there's some decisions that council will need to make on the front end in order for that to be shaped further.
Okay, so the questions, it seems like, that are lingering from the council then is the what type of training, the duration, and then the budgetary consideration, correct? Those
Correct.
pretty much those three items.
Yes, and the forum for which the training could commence in. That's going to be important to any consultant that works with us. If this is because training of this sort, definitely you want to make sure that the environment is conducive for everyone to be able to, speak genuinely and be curious about how we work, how you all would work through that. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult when you're doing that on open stage and public forum. So if, again, depending on how you all would like that designed, I think that that part would be important for any consultant coming in trying to assist the council in terms of their best recommendation for how to make sure you get the best value out of any of that interaction.
Okay, hang on for just a minute. I'm going to go to Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Beverly, I guess I need some clarity on this. I was under the impression from several months ago when Mara talked about this, that the end game, once we got people trained internally, was to bring what was ever needed to council. What am I missing here?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand that last part about bringing the end game to council. Are you meaning including council?
You all were doing training the trainers, right?
Yes, we're starting that, yes.
All right. And I was under the impression, or at least my notes show, that the end game of all of this in training the trainers was to allow them to train. That was the whole purpose of it. And I thought that then they would be trainers. And if I'm not mistaken, for some reason I have written here October or November, that could go then out to people like us or the rest of the people in city government. What am I missing here?
I think two different platforms. So Councilwoman, you're correct. There is an effort where we're training trainers to help advance the learning or the concepts around improving racial equity. That is going to happen. Let me start from this platform. We will have internal trainers that can definitely do that. But in all honesty, for council, obviously, I think of your group as really you're part of the leadership for the city, so to speak. And so there are some different nuances, I believe, that is important for council. And so while we will have trained the trainers, I would highly recommend that we use a consultant with your team, because there's going to be different pieces that I believe that a more experienced consultant could probably help us address.
Okay, then one follow-up with that. Why would we not use, since yes, we are a different branch, and I think you're absolutely right. I think it could make a trainer, an in-house trainer, a bit uncomfortable. I get that. Why would we go to a different company, no matter who that is, if this is the company we've hired that has been working with us for a year and is professional? I'm trying to figure out, was that part of the original understanding philosophy when we started? I mean, I think the training's a good thing. I'm in agreement. I'm just trying to figure out why we would go somewhere else. Or was GARE always the organization? I thought I understood they were the organization that was going to work with us on different levels. Do I have that incorrect?
You do not have that incorrect. What you've just stated, GEAR is a consulting group that is working with city government.
Okay, thank
And so that would, so to respond to council's request for training, I would collaborate with our consultants in GEAR to identify who would be the best trainer to help meet the needs of council, so that we're consistent and in alignment with the approach around our education and journey for improving racial equity.
All right, so what you need from us is the how, when, where sort of thing, and then you would choose the trainer.
Yes, I'd work with you all, yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Gilbert?
Well, Ms. Beverly, is that a cost factor for us to actually go through the training? For us, council?
I'm sorry, sir, did you say, is it a cost factor?
Yes.
Is there an additional cost factor?
Yes.
There would be, depending on, yes, there would be, depending on what council is wanting to do.
So in other words, council got to make a decision on how much they want to spend in order to get this program going for us?
Yes.
Okay. So Chair, I think one of the questions is, I know we have X amount of dollars for a consultant. Do we want to spend money with a company we already have, which I think we should, and go forward with it, with a meeting with us, like we have done when we went over the goals of the city in the same format?
Councilman, I think that would be the proper, the best format for us, is to have it in a private setting where we could get the training. I would like to know what the package, Miss Beverly, sort of looks like, rather than just say we want to spend, I don't know, X. I mean, I'd like to know what X gets us, or in other words, what's the package? The different packages look like.
Understand. How about I do this? I will, the original documents that I sent over to you all, I will be glad to extrapolate that type of information, maybe put together a couple of options in terms of what could be recommendations, whether that's 2 trainings, 3 trainings, or what have you, with the cost piece there and the time commitment for each of those.
Okay.
And if that would be helpful, because we do have the objectives of all of those trainings already. So I could just put it in a different format if that would ease would help with the decision-making process.
I think it probably would.
Okay.
If you could do that, I would appreciate it.
I will do that.
Thank you. Councilman Byrd?
Thank you, Chair. Also, Ms. Beverly, Councilman Chairperson Chip said a great, what does X get us? And also, what are the outcomes of X? Like, if we've been using GEAR, what have we accomplished? And what are some of the testimonies that can say, hey, we have achieved or we have accomplished this, before we start definitely throwing more money at something, whether it works or not. The young lady or the people that Councilman Coonrod is suggesting, I also would like to know, some of their outcomes, and what are we looking for as a council? What are we trying to walk away with once we get this training? A lot of times outcomes do play a major part. So we're just not sitting in there getting taught something we already know, or not leaving the table without anything. So I'd like to know that as well, if you can, Ms. Beverly.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. The information that I forwarded to Jerry, I think, I'm not sure if he forwarded to the entire council on, and I submitted her to Ms. Beverly the questions that council had previously asked. And then in that package, she did send like what the cost of using GEAR. And for a half a day, GEAR charges $6,000 just for a half a day, and $12,000 if we're going to utilize them for the entire day, which both packages in itself cost more than what Unlearn had submitted for 7 workshops for 2 hours. So I think that's something else we need to take a look at. I understand we're already using GARE, but if we're talking about the money that we're going to have to spend plus the amount of the services that we're going to be provided, that's something else that we need to consider as well. I do believe that this training is very important for a number of reasons, such as I've stated before. I don't feel it's necessary to repeat those things. But hopefully soon, we in a time crunch. We only got 7-8 months left for this council, because some will be transitioning out. Who's to say if we all come back or not? Now we don't even know who's decided that's gonna actually run for council again, but we do know who's decided to run for mayor. But again, we have to make a decision if this is something that we want to, go ahead and take the training, the workshops. If it's something that we agree that we don't want to do, then we just got to be honest with it and say there's something we don't want to do, so we can quit kicking the can down the road. I mean, my hope is that we could create a retreat type setting if we got to do it virtually or however, to carve out, an hour or two and get it done. If we can do that every other week or however it needs to be done, because it will help us in our government.
Okay. You good, Councilwoman?
I'm great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Phil,
Yes, sir.
didn't we not, oh, and by the way, Councilperson Coonrod, I did forward that to all the other council people that you sent to me, so thank you for that. Didn't we reach a point before where if we decided to go not the GARE route, we would have to do some kind of request for proposals or request for qualifications and not just bring someone in like LaQuisha, who I'm sure LaQuisha does an excellent job. Nothing against LaQuisha, but didn't we talk about this at one point and say we'd probably have to do a request for proposals, and that would elongate the process, or that would kick the can farther and faster if we did it that route? Weren't we there at some point?
Yes, sir. At least as the professional service.
Mr. Attorney.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Unless it is a professional service as defined under state statute on here, I think it does have to have some sort of request for quotes type process here, at least under your purchasing rule.
Okay, and Mr. Chair, for my 5 cents worth, I still would like to know what the council wants to get out of this training. And that would require us to, decide that. And I'm sure it varies a little bit. I mean, there's 9 of us here, so, but I'd like to hear that at some point where I have a better idea about what to expect, whoever delivers the training to us. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. And I think that's kind of where we got to last time we talked about this, particularly as it resulted in putting something out for an RFQ, and we just sort of ended it there. I'm happy to give a little time to go around the horn and see what each council person would like to get out of it. We do have the need of an attorney-client privilege, and it's rolling on 245 at this point. But I would like to come to some kind of conclusion on this, whether we're going to use GARE. I don't think it's a matter of if we're going to do it. I think it's a matter of who we're going to use, and I think trying to decide as a council who we're going to use depends on probably what we do want to get out of it. I'm happy to take a little time for council people to express what they would like to get out of it. Councilman Gilbert.
I think the question, and I know there's no hands going up. The problem is that some of the questions that we want to ask, we are reluctant to ask of each other. The way it was brought up, the way that how we think, some things that traditionally is this way, but not reality. I think that a better understanding of each other on our culture, what works with me don't work with you, that type of situation. I think that that's what I thought we were gonna get out of it, is that the question that you always want to ask, but you're too afraid to ask because you know it'd be controversial.
Okay. Anybody else like to chime in? And Councilwoman Coonrod, I know that you and Councilman Mitchell are kind of driving this, but I mean, if it comes down to we just need to make a decision, I'm happy to get with Miss Beverly and we'll make a decision and go forward with what we have and what we know. And if it turns out to be not what we want, we can continue down the road. Councilman Byrd.
Chair, you or Phil, what's the difference by coming with a cost and a RFQ? If we use GARE, why does that RFQ do not apply?
Because you've already, I think, Councilman, because you've already got them as a vendor here for the city. You're already using them at this point in time to provide that service.
So the services that they're providing for us is going to come already for the city. This to provide services for us is going to come at a different cost and maybe even a different set of skills that we're looking for that they're not providing to the rest of the city, correct?
Well, I guess it depends on what you want them to provide for you here.
Right.
If they're providing just simply educational services, they should be at the same rate for the council as they are for the rest of the city. That's what I'm a little confused about here. I don't know exactly what their charges are, if they're based upon a day cost or if they're based upon an individual person that would show up. It depends on what amounts of educational materials that need to hand out to you in that regard, and something to be able to establish how that would work. But there should be a flat rate of what they're doing that for the rest of the city.
Okay.
So I don't see any other hands, and I'll chime in here with Councilman Gilbert. I think one of the things that would be helpful for me is to somehow be made aware of biases that I have that I'm not aware that I have. And I'm assuming that there's training out there that would allow you to become aware of those biases and our my decision making, my thought process based on biases that I'm not aware that I have. I'm going to give just a few more minutes to see if anybody else wants to chime in here. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Thank you, Chair. And I purposely waited on you to speak, and I thank you for being honest. Because since I've been on council, like you and I, we've talked about a lot of things. And my own biases, you've helped me to realize my own biases when it comes to political parties. I've had to come outside of my comfort zone on a lot of things, and really found out that I really agree with a lot of things that conservatives they say and talk about, as well as on the the liberal side, that I agree with some things that they have to say too. But it's taking common ground for me to work with people all across the aisle to try to get things accomplished that's needed. Although, I may not recognize or understand how it ever feel to live on Signal Mountain, but I do know how it feel to live in impoverished conditions in my inner city community. But hearing your story, hearing Ken's, hearing Ledford's, you guys' story are similar to mine. We just happen to be two different colors. I'm Black and you all are white. But we all, what I've learned by serving on council with you guys is that your family you went through the same struggles that I went on, whether if it was food stamps, having to work jobs to make sure that your family, you were latchkey kids, you were, grew up maybe without a father and doing different parts of your life. Those stories resonates with me. We just all took a different path, right? On how we're going to be successful. And that's what's important to me, just me learning about you, getting to know about you. How can I apply those same tactics to my life and to my community? So the purpose of the training is that I hope that we can all get past our biases and realize how marginalized groups are affected solely just based on race, and how we, things are policies that are in place that prevent certain groups from thriving, and how we can change that by working together, not only just through policy, but just coming to see. Like, I've invited Chip to my community plenty of time. Ken, he comes out to the community, and they actually found out that they love Chip. Chip isn't this worst guy that they had predicted him to be. He's somebody who came and made sure that my community members had a meal to eat. They have a different perspective about Chip now. And sometimes that's just what it takes. We gotta get past our own bias. So thank you, Chip, for sharing that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, I think I've got a little better understanding. I'm going to get with Miss Beverly, and I'll work with Councilman Mitchell and Councilwoman Coonrod. We'll try to get this put together in a package and present to the council, either through Gare or the other consultant. We're going to move forward with this, and we'll get it moving forward. All right. Let me move down our agenda a little bit. We have the only other pending legislative matter we have is steep slopes and floodplains. Councilman Ledford, any update on that?
Right now, I'm basically trying to find some peer studies to help clarify some questions that possibly LDO may have for in the implementation, but that's something I'm working through right now. I do not want to remove that from our pending legislation so that it stays fresh, but
okay, very well.
That's where we're at right now. Thank you for asking.
Chair.
Councilwoman, hold on one second. Miss Lydia, go ahead and excuse Miss Beverly. And Councilwoman Burrs.
That quarterly performance review, we just had that. Is that something?
Well, that's what I thought. That's the reason
Yeah, it needs to be off unless you all are asking for something else.
no.
I didn't hear anything.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam Clerk, we'll go ahead and take that off, quarterly performance review. Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been contacted by a few folks this week, and I'm not sure if they were sending just the email or the whole council the email. But there were some questions asked remember we had auxiliary committees that started this process and worked in cooperation with RPA and supposedly LDO, and they came up with different conditions that this community was in as it relates to steep slopes. And it seems to me at that point, we sort of lost that group somehow. And I know it was a combination of all different types of folks. And I'm just wondering, they never really gave us any recommendations. So I'm wondering, do we as a council want to sort of reactivate that group and let them come up with some recommendations and share them with LDO and share them with our RPA? I think that's something, if we want to do that we'd have to give instructions to RPA to say, can you run that train down the tracks? So I guess my question would be, do we want to utilize the groups that were formed to help RPA gather information, but then we never really had them make recommendations to us? I think we made great progress with Councilman Ledford's efforts of a few weeks ago with that meeting, and that brought us, at least myself, became more educated about, let's call it phase 3. I think we've used that term before. Mm-hmm. So really that group that's out there, is there any reason to reactivate them and have them come back to us with some recommendations of policy? Or are we just going to maybe try to, I guess Councilman Ledford's trying to get that phase 3 into some type of legislative form, so we'd have something to vote on, at least as it relates to restoring property. But is there any other work that we get back with LDO and RPA and say, what about phase 1? What about phase 2? or are we just going to be satisfied with coming up with something phase 3 because the clock is ticking and we're running out of time? I guess that's a question, a long one, but that's a
It
question I
certainly
have for
is.
the council.
I see Councilman Ledford's hand up. I'm gonna let him take a stab at this, and then I might make a comment as well. Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Chairman. They haven't been forgotten, Councilman Mitchell. Matter of fact, one of the members I had an hour-long meeting with in my office at 6 feet apart just a couple of days ago. So they are active. They are talking. We are in conversation. You are right, though. Phase 1 and 2 have components that need to be addressed. So here's where it gets sticky, so to speak. And what I'm working through currently right now is we did give RPA a directive. We asked for LDO to give us an opinion, and from what I'm getting back from all parties is they don't know how to give an opinion. They don't know how to answer the question or the directive. That's why the peer review has been now surfaced as a, well, how's this working, or is anything like this working in another city? So it's fine to give the directive, but if we're going to get the well, we don't know, or we're not sure how to, if we don't have the qualified staff to give the opinion, then I guess the next step is we write legislation and we present it and we say figure it out. That's what we'd like to do, but I think that's a little bit strong-armed, and I don't think that's the right way to do that. I would like to hear back from them. So I did have a conversation with John Bridger about maybe even, we have this zoning review coming up with the third-party consultant, and if we added that to their list as a component, then we could probably get some broader opinion based on research around the country. Now, my question, and I can probably anticipate where Councilman Mitchell's going to be too, and that is, well, how much time is that going to take? Because we're running out of time. And John said that could be done probably within 60 days. Well, I think at some point we're just going to have to make a decision as a council. Do we want to try this vegetation component and implement it, and then review it, put a 6-month review on it? If it's working, if it's not working, that's fine. But if it, just because it's new, we shouldn't be afraid of it, so to speak. But this council is smart enough, I think, to figure out whether or not it can be implemented. Now, I would like to hear from LDO. I know they're working hard out there on a lot of things, but I would like to hear some opinion from them. But it seems to be that we come up with an idea, but then it gets kind of, because it's new, it's fresh, it's never been tried before, we get, well, I don't know if I can give you maybe what you're looking for opinion-wise. So, and that may be the boldness that we need to take as a council. I don't want to force anything onto our departments that they can't handle or are unsure of, but I think that one, to be honest with you, is just simple math. It's a simple process. I think they can map it out. And when you present your plans, if you just go into those areas, it's all mathematically laid out. But so that's just kind of a rambling version of what we're looking at when we're trying something new. What I'm running into on my end. Believe me, I'm talking to folks and trying to keep this ball rolling, but it's for some reason it's kind of stalling because maybe we don't have the opinion or the experience we need right now to capture something that is new for us. So I am wrestling with it, but I'm pushing forward.
Okay. We're rolling up on the 3 o'clock hour, which is going to take us, we need to get into attorney-client, our privilege meeting. I'm going to take Councilman Gilbert's question, and then we're going to go into attorney-client meeting. Councilman Gilbert.
My understanding that we have some good rules and regulations now. It's just that some contractors don't want to honor that, and there's no teeth behind if they don't. I agree with Councilman Mitchell that we do need to have a group maybe come together and give them a deadline saying that we need some answers by X amount of time. But I think most of the group that was put together, they already know what needs to take place. And they mentioned that inside the meeting that we was at, saying that the rules are good rules, but people just don't follow the rules, and there's no consequence behind it. You go to court and nothing happens. We need to put teeth behind it. Teeth, that means if you don't follow this rule, you get shut down until you fix it at the end of the day. So that's why I'm looking forward to going towards the future and not keep going 6-7 months out, but just go ahead and put it in place.
Okay. All right. We do need an attorney-client privilege meeting this afternoon. So at this time, Vice Chair, if you would end this meeting and restart, please, so that we can go into our attorney-client meeting.
Will do.
Thank you.